Ah yes, we're finally at this point in the isekai craze where people have gotten tired of the usual isekai tropes, so they're trying to escalate shit by turning the protagonist into whatever bullshit they think would be funny that day. And though it is fun to riff at stuff like, ah yes, the story where a Japanese guy got turned into a vending machine, not all of these stories are necessarily bad because of that. They're bad because of the usual isekai stuff, like the creator making up increasingly more and more bullshit ways to make the hero overpowered as shit. It doesn't even matter if he is a washing machine or whatnot. And so, Reincarnated as a Sword is a 12-episode isekai anime created by C2C about a dude that got hit by a car and got reincarnated as a sentient sword. None of this matters throughout the story, by the way. You can cut the whole isekai out of this entirely, and this will be your average Japanese fantasy setting for all intents and purposes. And so as a protagonist of an isekai novel, they start doing what all of them always do in the beginning, start leveling up their skills like crazy until they're the most overpowered thing in the area. Meanwhile, there's a slave cat girl of a black tribe called Fran, who is a slave, and she doesn't want to be a slave, and everything is sad. One day, these two characters finally meet, and after killing everything that opposed them, Fran and the newly named teacher, I tried calling him sensei, but I wanted to barf every single time I spoke, embark on an epic fantasy isekai journey where they're going to isekai all over the place. So yes, as far as the whole setting and story goes, this is about as average of an isekai as it can get without getting boring. From the isekai elements to the story itself being basically one of those dad animes, you know, where a more experienced old dude either requires or already had a cute little girl and they go on adventures and the girl's being cute and the girl and all that. Thankfully, Fran in this anime has more character development than that. She's brave and stubborn when needed, has an overall goal, and most importantly, does try to be something more than just wielder of a super sword, which is a good thing, given if the whole overprotective teacher realizing that he doesn't need to stifle her gets a bit irritating once it's been done the third fucking time. The world building in and of itself isn't that great. No, that came out wrong. Basically, it's an average Japanese fantasy setting, with most action not being located in Korea, the only reason why I can't wholeheartedly declare it to be generic. It doesn't really go into it that much outside of the episode where one character is explaining the entire magic system of the show, but maybe that's for the best. There's only so much fluff about fantasy kingdoms I can take before starting to tune off and play Frogger on the second screen. The graphics of the anime are pretty good, actually. Most of it is decently animated, and the overall design is a typical Japanese fantasy, but it serves its purpose just fine. The music isn't that bad either. A good mix of instruments, not intrusive, that is to say, you don't really mind it too much, and it's actually not that bad to listen to separately. And that's kinda about it, really. It's not a bad isekai by far, but it also doesn't bring anything new to the table, so if you're experiencing an isekai fatigue, it's best to skip this one. If, however, you don't, then it's not the worst thing to watch. No, though I would probably recommend to wait for the inevitable second season for a better experience. In terms of what I would take from this anime for my own projects, that's actually kinda hard to answer properly, as there's not much interesting ideas here to take. I guess the idea of dungeons being a trial of a god is an interesting one, and that the dungeon master is effectively just a monster or a thing given access to a developer console, but to be perfectly honest, I don't really like the whole Japanese interpretation of dungeons. I don't necessarily hate it, since the idea of a place that is effectively its own unique biome is an interesting one, and some stories used it to their advantage. I guess my biggest complaint is that the addition of these places feels more like an afterthought, a cliché, something that the genre of Japanese fantasy demands you to have, but not something the creator really thought about. Then again, maybe I just want every dungeon to look like something from Made in Abyss or Delicious in Dungeon, which is probably asking too much.